When prison becomes war. Inside violent U.S. jails, don't miss the next case. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. The clang of cell doors shattered the usual 6:30 a.m. calm at Lee Correctional Institution in Bishopville, South Carolina. Guards scrambled to the F3 dorm when the alarm lit up the monitor room. The yard was alive with violence. Inmate Michael Millage had been attacked inside his cell, stabbed repeatedly, and the warning had gone out across the compound. Corridors filled with black smoke, homemade blades flashed in the dim morning light, and inmates rushed toward each other with brutal intent. Deputy Warden Edward Tisdale and officers arrived a half-hour later, only to find the control panels offline, doors unlatched, and the sound of bodies collapsing in nearby cells. A guard on the roof counted bodies falling over the razor-wire fence and inmates scaling the yard. "They're winning," he radioed over static. The riot that night would claim 7 lives and injure more than 20. Behind the walls, the tension had been rising for months. The West Yard dorms F1, F3, and F5 were overflowing. Rival gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, and the Gangster Disciples overlapped with little supervision. Staff was short, doors malfunctioned, contraband phones circulated. Inmate Cornelius McClary lay dead from nearly 100 stab wounds. Witnesses described killing season in that dorm, a phrase that echoed in courtrooms months later. Meanwhile, Officer Linda Murray sat in the guard post overlooking F5. She faintly heard crash boom boom, then screaming echoes. Her door jammed. She watched helplessly as inmates broke through and surged into the corridor. One yelled, "Bloods rise." Another retorted, "Crips fight back." The violence erupted like wildfire through a forest of piled grievances. In the aftermath, investigators found the cell Millage was killed in had been previously flagged for gang fights, contraband flow, and malfunctioning locks. Emails from earlier that year showed guards reporting concerns, but nothing changed. Warden Patrick Walls faced hearings, but one key piece of evidence lay hidden. A surveillance feed wiped minutes before the attack began. When the investigators opened the backup tape, what they found changed everything. The wiped surveillance feed became the center of a storm. Investigators at Lee Correctional Institution couldn't explain how minutes of footage, the exact window when the riot erupted, had vanished from every backup drive. The FBI's forensic techs called it too precise to be an accident. Rumors spread through the prison like wildfire. Some said an insider helped coordinate the attack. Others whispered that rival gang leaders had bribed someone inside the control room. Captain Denise Wallace, a veteran investigator with the South Carolina Department of Corrections, stepped into the warden's office that morning. Her voice was calm but firm. "Patrick, I need full access, emails, call logs, visitor records, everything." The warden hesitated, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. "You're not going to like what you find." By afternoon, a trail of text messages surfaced between 2 correctional officers, one assigned to security cameras, another to inmate escort duty. The messages hinted at bribes, money transfers, and warnings about an upcoming event. Wallace knew she was staring at something bigger than a spontaneous prison fight. This wasn't a riot, she told her team. This was a setup. Meanwhile, survivors of the rampage were brought into a small interrogation room, their orange jumpsuits stained, their eyes hollow. One of them, Jamal Porter, a 27-year-old inmate serving time for armed robbery, finally broke. "They planned it weeks ago," he whispered. "Said it was payback. Said the guards were in on it." His confession sent ripples through the department. If what he said was true, Lee Correctional wasn't just broken, it was compromised from the inside. Outside the walls, families of the victims gathered in silent vigils. 7 dead, more than 20 wounded. Mothers, sisters, and sons stood beneath flickering candles, demanding answers. News outlets called it the night of no control. Headlines screamed for reform, but behind the cameras, political pressure built against the Department of Corrections. Then came the breakthrough. One of the deleted surveillance fragments was recovered from a damaged hard drive. The short, grainy clip showed something chilling, a correctional officer unlocking a cell door moments before chaos erupted. His face was clear. His name was Officer Raymond Holt, a 12-year veteran with no prior disciplinary record. But the most shocking part wasn't that Holt opened the door, it was who walked out of that cell. It wasn't an inmate. It was another officer, carrying a duffel bag that appeared heavy, metallic, and illegal. And that discovery changed everything. The revelation of the second officer sent shockwaves through the entire correctional system. That mysterious duffel bag, the one caught on the recovered footage, became the center of a federal probe. Inside it, investigators later confirmed, were homemade weapons, cell phones, and encrypted notes linking multiple guards to gang leaders inside the prison.
It was no longer a story about a riot.
It was a conspiracy, one that had turned Lee Correctional Institution into a powder keg waiting to explode. Captain Denise Wallace worked around the clock, her desk buried under folders marked confidential. Each file revealed another guard under suspicion: text logs, late-night calls, unexplained cash deposits. They weren't just negligent, she said in disbelief. They were business partners in blood. The deeper the probe went, the more the illusion of order collapsed. What appeared to be a chaotic uprising had been carefully orchestrated, with inside help and deliberate timing to ensure maximum chaos. Inmates who had once feared speaking out now lined up to tell their side. "We tried to warn them," said Jamal Porter in a follow-up interview. "We told them people were stockpiling weapons. Nobody listened." His statement mirrored dozens of reports that had gone ignored for months. Every testimony painted the same grim picture: a prison so understaffed, so fractured, that it was only a matter of time before violence erupted. By mid-2019, the Department of Justice released its findings. The Lee riot was not random. It was the result of systemic neglect, contraband corruption, and internal betrayal. Officer Raymond Holt and 3 others were charged with smuggling contraband and falsifying security reports. Their trials exposed years of bribery and intimidation buried beneath routine paperwork. One of them later admitted to being threatened by inmates and choosing survival over duty. But even as justice moved forward, the damage was already done. 7 lives lost, dozens scarred for life, and a facility haunted by its own silence. When Wallace visited the cell block months later, she stood in the dim corridor, sunlight cutting through dust and broken glass. The air was heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. "It's not the walls that failed," she said softly. "It's the people sworn to protect them." That night, the state of South Carolina announced sweeping reforms: more staff, better surveillance, new security measures. Yet for those who lived through that night, no policy could erase the memory of when prison became war. And as America watched, one truth became undeniable. Sometimes, the deadliest battles aren't fought on the streets, they're fought behind bars.